Hey guys, so I wanted to come on here and talk about this story that was sent to me by one of my subscribers. And normally I don't talk about, cases that involve violence against Black people perpetuated by Black people because I don't like to feed into that whole Black on Black crime narrative. I think that we have enough people spreading around Black degeneracy and not enough people focusing on the biggest level of degeneracy that actually created Black degeneracy, which is white degeneracy. But in light of the climate and culture that's been created on YouTube by the Dusty Beta Manosphere and many other Black male who pushed a narrative that if a Black woman disagrees with you and doesn't listen to you, then it is okay to inflict violence. I think this story is warranted. It also helps to give a view and a perspective on how the mainstream media is going to be using these stories, and they often do use them to demonize Black men. I think that a lot of people are not understanding. I don't know if they're not spiritually in tune, or maybe they're just choosing to not focus on the fact that there are going to be some things that are going to happen soon in which white men, and when I say white men, I don't mean your everyday average white man. I mean the power structure that is controlled and run by white men, I predict are soon, very, very soon, going to make a concerted effort to basically finish Black men off. And they're going to do it in America first, and then they're going to move to doing it to foreign Black men. And the reason why this is going to be successful is because rather than focusing on the very real threat, they are choosing to engage in battles over weave with their women. And they'll battle their women over everything, but they're not figuring out ways to counter these attacks, the ones that are happening now and the ones that are to come. Because people are not understanding these people are in a dire situation. You may not think that they are, but they are. And as a means of preventing even the possibility of having to face recompense for everything that they've done, they would prefer to try and continue to carry out that plan to destroy Black men. Now, this is one that I think is going to be very successful against most Black men, because they don't understand that what they are doing online and the mentality that they have is more harmful to them than they think it is to Black women. They think that they're somehow correcting Black women, but in reality, all they're doing is advertising the fact that they are right where they need to be in order to be exterminated. And unfortunately, they're going to help to enlist a lot of their women to go along with this. Now, I won't be one of them because I don't think that it benefits us for Black men to be harmed, but there will be a lot of people who will. And if you guys think I'm lying, you can just watch. You can just watch. You guys maybe have a difficult time anticipating things, but I certainly don't. And I think that anybody who's able to pay attention and who's able to analyze and anticipate and follow patterns, you will see that. But I want to get into this story. I don't believe that this represents the majority of Black men, but I do think it represents a rising mentality that's been that's taking prevalence right now. So I want to go to this news clip, and then I'll come back and read the article, because some of the details in the news clip are just not, they just don't give us enough information. So let's go to the news clip, and then I'll come back with commentary.
And new this morning, we are seeing the man police say shot and killed a woman inside an Ocala Walmart. According to police, 55-year-old David Johnson shot his female partner several times. And this happened yesterday. Carly Cronin, only 30 years old, screamed for help in the garden department before she was shot several times and killed.
But it began as a domestic disturbance in the garden center. They went into the store, and the female victim was screaming for help. We're so grateful to the Walmart personnel here. Many of them called 911 immediately. Some actually tried to intervene physically, but unfortunately they were not able to save her, and she was shot multiple times by the suspect.
Police say the suspect fled the store and later turned the gun on himself. He was found alive, but police do not expect him to survive.
Now, the interesting thing is that I've been watching Crime Watch Daily, and what I notice on Crime Watch Daily is that there's a number of different stories about Black men, in which they're in situations and relationships with Black women and they simply cannot handle anything emotionally. And the reason I say that is because the climate and the culture that's being created on social media fosters this mentality in Black men where they respond to any emotionally triggering situation with violence. That's just what they do. They don't believe that a woman should be challenging them on anything. And if a woman upsets them, they have no problem resorting to extreme violent behaviors in order to do what they call as rectify the situation. And then what they'll do is they'll try and kill themselves in order to not have to deal with the consequences of their behavior. This is why I did that video saying, are Black men emulating white male masculinity? Because this is the trend that we mostly seen prevalent in white men, where you'll see cases, and you can look at any type of show, Snaps, 2020, Dateline, just to name a few, where you will see, white men engaging in this very abusive behavior whenever they're challenged. So following suit, because they were raised by these men in a system of white supremacy, you have more and more Black men running around with these sentiments of white men, claiming that these are movements and ideologies and sentiments that they've originally had, and then white men co-opted it. Like, this is literally what they're saying about the manosphere and MGTOW, as if we don't know that we never heard Black men even mention MGTOW or manosphere until a few years ago, right around the time where white men established these movements. So rather than acknowledging the fact that of what living in this system is doing to their psychology, they prefer to lash out on the women, but they refuse to do anything to correct men because it fosters a very cowardly behavior. And who is the most cowardly? Who has always historically been and presently been the most cowardly group of men on this planet? Now, the article says a woman is dead and her former male partner is under arrest for an argument at a Florida Walmart became deadly. Now, if you mirror the sentiments of the Black men on YouTube, you'll see the same mentality where when they get in arguments, they threaten violence, they sit up here and spaz out emotionally, like they literally cannot contain themselves emotionally. They cannot do it. It says Carly Cronin was pronounced dead at a hospital after her and David Johnson began shouting Saturday afternoon in the Ocala store. Cops said the domestic argument commenced in the garden center before Cronin screamed for help, quickly after she was shot. Store employees called 911 and attempted to intervene, but Johnson fired at Cronin before they could defuse the tense situation. Johnson, 55, and look, this is the problem that we have, because how many of the members of the Dusty Beta Male manosphere can you tell are very old, probably in their late 40s and 50s? Like, we can probably guess that BGS is somewhere around in his 40s and 50s. Valdez is probably somewhere hitting, probably touching his 40s. Graying, you can tell that they're old and seasoned, yet they react emotionally as if they're children because they have no emotional competency or control. Like, they really don't have any emotional restraint, so this is how they act. The only difference is that they're in physically strong male bodies and they are able to carry around guns. So the thing of it is rather than dealing with situations in intellectually effective ways, they lash out emotionally, resort to violence, and then things like this happen. It says Johnson, 55, fled on a bicycle and was apprehended near the pair's former residence. He had suffered a self-inflicted gunshot wound and was hospitalized. Cops said he isn't likely to survive the injury. Walmart staff did indicate that they do know of this couple because they do shop there regularly, said Ocala Police Department spokeswoman Megan Shea. Scotty Ballard, who claims to be the Cronin's roommate, told the Ocala Star-Banner he and Cronin had gone shopping to buy furniture for their apartment. He said Cronin and Johnson had dated for approximately 9 months but were separated. He also stated Johnson wanted to reunite with Cronin, who did not want that. So this is a man who can't take rejection, okay? And because the woman didn't want him the way he wanted her, he set up here in an emotional rage and killed her. Tell me this doesn't sound like the sentiments of the Dusty Beta Manosphere, who sits up here and talks about how they're ready to take violence against Black women, how Black women don't want them. They'll sit up here, scream and cuss and talk about their looks and their hair, all because they can't take rejection, and they have they lack the ability to really control their emotions. And this is why I promote other men checking them on this, because this is where the behavior leads to. When you have a culture where the men can act out emotionally, they can attack other females and nobody checks them. This is a problem. And meanwhile, the mainstream media are going to continue to use these stories to show how Black men are not only ineffective, but they are a violent threat to everyone. And if you think they're not going to use these, they are. Because there's been multiple stories about, even with Black men doing these things to white women. Again, this isn't going to be my narrative. This is what they're going to use to justify the mass extermination of large amounts of Black men. And if you think that that's not coming, well, then I guess you'll just have to wait and see. But you guys let me know what you think about this story. Thank you for your support, and I'll see you in the next video. I mean, again, I think we all know that all Black men are not like this, and there are Black men who are stronger. They know how to effectively deal with confrontation and emotional situations. However, many of them are not equipped to do that. And the culture that's being created and that's being played out on social media only helps to reinforce this mentality. You should not have a 55-year-old man who, because a woman doesn't want him, feels that he needs to throw a temper tantrum in a Walmart and then murder this woman. But that's what's happened, and it's similar to what happened when Nyla talked about the judge, who basically did the same thing. He had a history of beating on the woman. Ultimately, he murdered her. This is an issue that needs to be addressed, but then again, we already know most of the Black men who sit up on social media are not going to correct other men. They're only going to wage a war over Black women's weave and makeup. But you guys let me know what you think. Thank you for your support, and I'll see you in the next video.